Let's bring in Rami Khouri, who joins me live from Boston in the U.S. He's a public policy fellow at the American University of Beirut. Rami, thank you so much for being with us on the program. This appointment is not expected to be welcomed by the White House. In terms of military action, how much more tense can we expect things to get with Mojtaba Khamenei now as the new supreme leader?
Well, Afnan, the appointment was very much discussed, talked about by people in Iran who know Iran, so it wasn't a surprise to the Iranians. The United States said it didn't want it. Trump made fun of him that he's not very well known or something. But his selection is a kind of an act of resistance and defiance and independence at the same time, and it's a response, in a way, a nonviolent response to the assault by Israel and the U.S. on Iran, because what the U.S. and Israel want is to hit Iran so badly, and hit it so hard that it becomes a pliant, yes state. It'll say anything that the U.S. wants. And this appointment is an initial opening salvo in the next stage of this battle, not the military one, but the battle of the political and the personalities battle. So, but in the end, he's going to be judged by his performance. He has one of the most difficult challenges anywhere in the world of any political leader. The country is devastated, its industry, it's being hit, its infrastructure is being hit, its armed forces have been hit very badly. There's a lot of senior people have been assassinated, and there's more to come, and I'm sure, in the next period before the fighting winds down. So, and he has a huge task to respond to the needs of the Iranian people, and just basic things like electricity, water, food, medical care, etc., in this condition with a pretty, not bankrupt, but a very difficult economic situation for the government, and not a lot of allies and friends in the region. So he has to do some magic acts politically and diplomatically, and we don't know what he's going to do or if he's capable to live up to this challenge.
Okay, I want to take a look a bit at Trump's handling of the events unfolding. Over the last couple of days, he's been pressured by reporters on a number of issues, one being the attack on that school in Manab that led to the killing of more than 160 students. But whenever he's pressured, he begins to say things along the lines of how evil the regime is, and even went as far as saying they behead babies, a line that, as we all know, was frequently used by Israel to justify their genocide in Gaza. What does this tell us in regards to the U.S.'s strategy on their war in Iran?
It tells us they don't have a strategy. They have a series of caricatures, comic-like caricatures, that the Iranians are evil, they're bad, they're just a bunch of mad mullahs. All they want to do is mistreat their people and attack their enemies, destroy Israel and destroy the United States. These kind of caricatures and slogans, and it carries over into specific details when they say there was a threat, where clearly there wasn't. Everybody who studied it, even Americans, say there was no threat from Iran to the USA. So this is very much in keeping with both the character of Trump himself and the nature of the American government's attitude to Iran, not just this government, but previous governments which sanctioned Iran very, very badly as well. So it's no surprise. But at the same time, the United States cannot afford to let this war go on, and it's creating pressures for everybody, the Arab allies in the Gulf, Iran itself, the Israelis, all the countries in the region, and then all the world, with trade and waterways being closed and things like that. So he has to somehow bring the fighting to an end so that the reconstruction process, and you've got, desalination plants in Iran and in Bahrain, you've got facilities, transport facilities, ports and things, hotels being hit all over the Gulf region. So everybody is suffering from this. And in the end, it's going to be blamed on Trump, because clearly Trump decided to do this because Israel wanted him to do it. So Israel and Trump are going to have to face up to the court of public opinion around the world once the fighting ends.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the conversation always comes to. It's how much is Trump willing to give up for Israel? In fact, the Times of Israel is reporting that Trump has said ending the war with Iran will be a mutual decision made with Netanyahu, proving to the world once again that the U.S. is fighting another country's battle. How much longer do you think U.S. lawmakers will support this? And does their support or the lack of their support even matter at this point?
You know, this is, Efnan, this is one of the biggest questions that has to be answered in the coming weeks or months, because it's so critical. And you see it here in the U.S. where I live now. The relationship between Israel and the U.S. is a very unusual one. The Israelis have for decades, they've been able to tell the U.S. what they want the U.S. to do in the Middle East, and most of the time it's done it, to the extent of now going to war twice with Iran. But the United States, the people of the United States, public opinion repeatedly shows in polling that they're not for this. They don't want to be fighting wars for Israel. They don't want to be fighting wars with anybody in the Middle East because they don't have a reason to do so, and it's only hurting them. The only one who's benefiting are the arms manufacturers. So the relationship between the U.S. and Israel is going to be scrutinized very, very deeply in the U.S. The Israelis still have considerable power and alliances in the parliament and in the White House. That may change after November's by-elections in the U.S. because the public opinion is becoming much more critical of the Republicans and Trump. His alliance of supporters is fragmenting slowly. So there may be a whole different political landscape in the U.S. in which Israel does not automatically get whatever it wants. It'll always have the U.S. helping ensure its security, but not its aggressive, predatory apartheid-like attacks and control of territories around it in the Arab world or in Iran. So this is a huge, huge question. Trump said that they'll do the decision together, but he'll make the final decision. He added a little caveat at the end, and we don't know what that means. We don't know what anything means when Trump says it, because he's often said something and then changed it and then adjusted it. Yeah. So you can't judge his words. You have to judge his actions.
Okay, Rami Khouri, thank you so much for joining us here on TRT World. I always appreciate your analysis.